yourselves for hungry zombies, killer clowns, masked psychopaths, and chainsaw-wielding fiends. Spooky season is upon us, and we'll be your guide through some of Southern California's finest scare attractions. From nightmarish mazes to terrifying jump scares, we'll be reviewing every creature, ghostly whisper, and scream as we give you an inside look into the heart-pounding, bone-chilling world of haunted houses and immersive events. Turn off the lights, lock the doors, and join us for this spine-tingling special edition of Scripts and Screams. Now your hosts with the ghosts, Jessica Morgan and Chris Carter.
Welcome.
Yes, welcome. We're back.
To spooky season some more.
Yes, and the biggest and most important thing to note today is that Jessica's officially working the board.
Oh,
so
no.
there may be some added excitement in the effects that roll off today's show. So
yeah, I thought it will mess it up, but here we are.
that's right. It's going to be fantastic.
Yes!
Yes, it will be. She's found the buttons. Yes. So again, in keeping with our tantalizing, secretive thing that we've done, we're going to talk about it for a little bit. Then we're going to tell people what it is.
Yeah, that's what we're going to do.
Yeah. I'm always excited about this event. I generally have, I think it's a cool environment to hang out, to hang out with friends. I think that traditionally the cost has been good, although the quality's not been great.
Well, you felt that like the last year or something like that. But before that, you actually had several times that you thought it might be your favorite.
I know. And you know, rewatching some of the videos that we took during our trek through it, I see why. Like it's a fun vibe. It reminds you of being back in Tucson and doing some of the local haunts they have there. We have something called Old Tucson where you can just kind of roam. I mean, nothing like Knott's, because like we talked about before, Knott's has just a get lost in the park kind of vibe around, you know, the spooky like city. But this place has something similar to that.
Yeah, it feels like it's like the next best thing where it's very, you know, got a lot of atmosphere and wandering around and feeling like you're somewhere else, right?
And you traditionally, you have not always felt the same, like the way I felt about it.
No.
Yeah.
No, I like some little things about it, but it's a very small event to me, and I feel like they could do it a lot better.
Yeah.
Generally.
Yeah.
So what are we talking about?
We're talking about LA's Haunted Hayride.
Oh, snap.
Yes.
No.
Oh my goodness. And so yeah, let's be straight up front. This was not going to be on our docket this year. I think last year kind of left a bad taste in all of our mouths, mine especially. And I am, like you mentioned, kind of the flag carrier when it comes to going to Hayride.
Yeah, I think you were really looking forward to it.
Last year,
yeah. You were like really hyped for it, and then it really let you down.
Yeah, the mazes. I think we have our old review up somewhere. The mazes felt archaic. It felt like they were missing scare actors too, right? Like
yeah, because it is one of those where, especially like the hayride part itself, it can feel a little bit like, why am I spending my time on this and nobody's really in these areas and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like any haunt that you go through, if there's a lack of scare actors, it really can like ruin it for you. It just feels like, okay, I'm just walking through an atmospheric thing, you know?
Yeah, and then you're really kind of aware too of that, of like how kind of constructed it is, because when a scare actor pops out at you, you're not looking at their hide, you're not looking at like, there's this empty box with plywood and like a small step, you know? It looks like this is depressing, you know? So,
yeah, that definitely happens.
Yeah. But again, we weren't going to go this year. However, going to Midsummer Scream, again, going to I think it's 13th floor panel, we were gifted free tickets.
Yeah, absolutely. I was like, at Midsummer Scream, they were giving out some discounts for it. Like you could just go over to their booth and like spin the wheel and get like discount tickets, which was really awesome. But then when we went to the panel, they legit gave us a code to like get a free ticket, general admission into this event.
Yeah.
So we were like, yeah, I mean, if you got a free ticket, you got to go.
My dad would say, if it's free, it's me.
Is that what
That's what he would say. I thought it was horrible, but yeah.
We'll take it.
Yeah, we'll take it. So no, so that's how it ended up on our, in the fold for what we in our haunt season. And you know, it's really hard to, I guess, go into spoilers or not because it's really kind of face value. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? There's really not a lot of stories within their mazes. Um, you
Yeah,
know,
to me, I've always felt like okay, because the one thing that's cool about it is that it does feel like you go out, like you literally park and then walk through a bunch of dirt to like get to this place.
yeah,
So it feels like you're going to somewhere that's like not populated, not in the city. You know what I mean?
yeah, true.
Like it kind of feels like a trek out, which is kind of nice. I mean, they still do have like mags out there that you have to walk through, and they do bag checks, and you know what I mean. But at the same time, they kind of build this little tiny version of like a town kind of a thing.
Yeah,
And that's always kind of cool. And then it's very like I'll just say it, it's Instagrammable. You know what I mean?
that's
Like
a good point.
yeah, like they have a tunnel that you walk through when you first enter that like is so cool. And I could spend like 30 minutes just hanging out in that area because it's just really fun. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And so that's it. And even when I do videos of that usually and I show people, people are always like, that looks so cool and I want to go. And I'm like, it's the coolest thing about it. No, I'm
it's
just
not
kidding.
the coolest thing about it.
But generally, like in the past, sometimes I've had those moments of being like, yeah, they do some really cool things with like atmospheric stuff.
Yeah.
But it's only in one small area usually. It's
When you
usually
first walk in,
just when you
right?
first walk in.
Yeah.
And then they're kind of famous for like their big tower stack thing that they do.
Mhm.
They make a big pumpkin tower that has like the name Haunted Hayride in front of it.
Oh yeah, their facade.
Yeah, so people will take photos there, and it is really cool.
Midnight Falls, I think, right? Is that what it is?
Well, that's the town that they've created.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but then they always do the it's a bunch of shelves that have pumpkins all over it. You know what I mean?
Oh
That's what I'm
yeah,
talking
yeah,
about.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah,
I see. They're basically got you.
their
The
pumpkin
most
tower thingy.
popular thing to take a picture in front of.
Mhm.
Yes, I get you.
Yeah, so there's some cool moments and things like that that you can do in there. And then they do have some food that's pretty good. I will say, best popcorn, right?
Kettle corn.
Kettle corn.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of kettle corn. Thanks, Mom. And yeah, we would go, and I tell everybody, sometimes the best part about going to Hayride is getting their kettle corn. It is incredible.
I love it. I fucking love it.
It was really, really
It's
good.
I do love it.
It was good. I don't even like kettle corn that much. Like I like it when it's warm and
Yeah.
fresh. But theirs is so good.
Yeah,
It's amazing.
fantastic. There are things I do like about it, honestly, and I don't want to get too like scattery on this because I know it's hard to talk about Hayride and not be scattery because they've got. You have to look at maybe the food. You made a great point about the Instagrammable point, like some really good photo ops there that are fun. But also the mazes and the Hayride. It feels like
Yeah.
there's different components to this thing as a whole. So I say we talk about them one at a time, break them down, maybe talk about what we liked, what we didn't like in those specific areas.
Sure.
And then as a whole, do you or do you not go to Hayride? Because for us, it was free.
Yeah.
It was a no-brainer. We were going to go. But like early purchase price tickets are gone by the time people hear this. Like you're paying full price, and you know it's the Hayride alone. I think is $40.
Yeah, I think so.
You know, and so
And that's literally just Hayride. So, and then otherwise they do 3 other mazes.
yeah,
So they do 3 haunts you can walk through and the Hayride, and that's like a general admission ticket. You get access to those 4 things. Oh, and then they do a show that's set up kind of at the front as well. They will have a
Yeah.
show that goes on, you know, every so much time or something like that.
and it's cool though. It is like it's like a rock and roll interactive thing. They do a cool job, but it's just a show. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
it's just like a fun little thing. So to me, I've always had an issue with that too. For Hayride, it feels like you can quickly, if you go on the right nights, don't get me wrong, if you go on like a Saturday when it's really busy, it might take you all night to get through all this. But for us, when we go on either a Sunday night or Thursday night, you know, something like that, we actually did go to this on a Friday evening, but we just tried to go really early, like as soon as they
Yeah.
opened, kind of a thing. We grabbed our tickets right when they opened because they have time slots. So I think that was an improvement they made one year where they did time slots, and that helped to move people through so that you don't get too backlogged. It's like, you know, you can only show up between these kind of time, and it staggers it out a little bit. So for us, you can get through it pretty quick. It's like a couple of hours or something, and then you're like, that was Hayride. We're done. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah.
They have some other attractions they added this year, which when we went to the panel, they talked about it. They said that they took in a lot of
Like feedback from people.
yeah, a lot of feedback from everybody, which I actually think is really cool. I think it's cool that they were kind of listening to like the fans of this event and things
Yeah.
like that to be like, what do they want more out of this? What is lacking? I think they kind of knew that maybe people were feeling like it fell off the last year or so. So they added things like they've always had this carousel that has all these bone skeleton horses
Yeah.
that are really cool, but you could never ride it. You know what I mean? It was just there. And I even remember last year kind of yelling about it, I think, at some point where I was just like, why?
Yeah,
You
why
know?
have it if you can't? Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this year you could ride it. You know, they did like a seance thing. They had little escape rooms and like axe throwing. All those things are additional costs,
Right.
but it gives you more to do if you want to hang out that night,
And
kind of a thing.
it feels like that. Like again, we'll talk about like that because it's funny. Like there is like it's like a carnival atmosphere in a way, you know. So
Yes.
you know, all those extras you talked about, where if you were going on a date and you wanted to spend some time out and do these things, I think it's great for that. But like in the variety of things you have, like we'll talk about the quality of the mazes and the hayride and separately. But we should say, right now I think tickets for the weekends is going to be $67.
Oh.
Yeah,
Okay,
for
got
that.
it.
That's general admission for everything. So
And that is again, so you're getting 3 mazes and the hayride.
hayride, yeah.
So
and the
to me,
show.
for 67, you have to know it's kind of worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the show.
When you talk about the only thing else to compare it to in the sense of the things you could do or kind of see in the specs in the space would be, in my opinion, Dark Harbor. Because Dark Harbor kind of, it's almost, it is like an evil circus. I think that's how
Yeah.
they describe it too. But
Dark
you
Harbor,
know,
yeah.
yeah. But all right, let's talk about let's hit the spoiler siren just because I want to talk about some specifics in the maze and the pictures, all that shit. So
Here we go.
Stick around.
all right.
I could just feel you itching for that.
Well,
I was like,
I do
let me
love
put a
it.
little more info in here. And you were like, I want to talk about
Yeah,
it.
Arnold, call him in. Okay, I think the first thing I want to talk about is I think maybe the hayride. Obviously the haunted hayride. That's kind of their flagship attraction.
Oh, yeah, the hayride itself.
Itself, yeah. So we're
Got
going
it.
to talk about the segments going forward. I think the hayride needs to be talked about independently from everything because if you wanted to, you could just buy a ticket for the hayride and then hit all these other things we're going to talk about: the axe throwing, the escape rooms, the vendors, the food, all that shit. So for me in the past, the hayride has been the absolute weakest link of this entire thing.
Yeah.
You get on in the complexities of it, right? Like us
Yes.
being directors and hiding scares. It's hard to do that when you're in a moving vehicle. Like I don't know how these these haunted car washes work. I don't seem like they'd be very effective. And a hayride, granted, it's more open air, but you see everything. There's a very difficult place to hide people that you can't see come around the corner. But like you mentioned, at Midsummer, they did take some of the feedback and they said they really wanted to focus on the hayride aspect of it.
Yes.
And for me, it was a big hit.
Yeah, I feel like it was so improved from last year, and they did a lot of the things that they said they were going to do in the panel. The feedback they got was that it did feel, for them it's always been hard for them to reach the audience, right? Like reach into this hayride because you're literally sitting in like a big, trailer wagon that's on the back of. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's cool. There's like it's literally what is it, tractor? There's a tractor pulling you.
Yeah.
Someone driving.
And we're sitting on bales of hay.
In the past, it used to be literally you're sitting on a bunch of hay on the floor of this thing. So it was like even more like, what the heck is going on here kind of a thing, pile in and see. And it even used to be so much more chaotic and I would say unsafe in the past.
Oh, yeah.
Where people would be jumping up to hold on to the tractor and things like that, which I just kept being like, this cannot
You mean
be
scare
safe.
actor?
Scare actors.
Okay.
So I almost think coming off of, if you've ever gone during that and then you came in the most recent years where they no longer did that, they will go up to the tractor. They will try to reach for you. They'll make noises on the tractor and things. But they aren't jumping up on it and things like that like they did before. I think it would feel a little lacking, right? Especially if you're relying on your scare actors to do the scares. And I think that's what this year they were like, no, we're going to figure out how we can kind of reach out to the audience more. Last year they had done this thing with these giant beach balls where at one point they threw it. And so you're actually able to interact with them and bounce them around and throw them back kind of a thing. And they were saying it was the biggest hit for the hayride. Like
Funny,
that was,
I hated that.
I know, but most people enjoyed the fact that there was at least something to do instead of sitting on a hayride the whole time.
Right.
And so they took that kind of stuff and said, yes, we're going to do more to actually try to reach out to get closer to you while you're still on this ride and see how it goes. And I think they did a great job of that. I think they really stepped it up.
Well, part of what I think that they absolutely do, I agree with you. And also just sidebar too, it is dangerous, right? I couldn't imagine being a scare actor. It is dark outside. You're going up on a tractor with lots of wheels. The first year I went, the first year I was a scream actor, whatever the fuck, a scare actor. Somebody got dragged. one of the scare actors from Hayride, I had heard from other scare actors at Universal, one of the scare actors got dragged and pulled by a tractor.
Oh, so like they got stuck on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I could see it being very dangerous for the scare actors, but like you said, they've kind of improved that. But to describe for people that have never been or are considering going to the Hayride, again, you get into a tractor, you're in the back of it, right? You're in, and so there are these vignettes in the darkness, and I think we were fortunate. It must have been like a no moon or something because it was pretty dark in between the vignettes for me. So they have you around this dirt road track, and they take you through these formed, I don't know, mini like buildings, for lack of a better word, and they light them very colorful. I loved what they did with the lighting, the greens and the purples and the oranges, and they fogged it up so these actors wouldn't be waiting just around for
Yeah, it's
oh,
not
here
like
they
you
come.
when you're approaching them slowly in the tractor trailer. You're not like just seeing them standing there.
In the past, they've done that, right?
In the past, you have actually seen them usually hanging out and waiting till you get close and then trying to do a little jump, and you're like, "Well, I saw you the whole time," you know?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm with you. It was sometimes you're approaching and you don't know exactly what the area is. You don't know if there'll be an actor there and things like that. I agree. They added like recordings, so they had kind of a story along the way
I
with
love
this
that.
one, which I loved it too. I think they could improve it a little bit more. It felt like they set up one speaker that was pretty close to the little scene that we were going up to. And sometimes I wouldn't hear the whole story because we would already be starting to get into the scene. And so you're getting distracted by what's around you, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And I kept being like, there's all these in betweens of the scenes that I feel like that's the area they could definitely set up like speakers so we hear the story and then we approach the area, kind of a thing.
Yeah, I guess now that I think about in my mind, that's how I thought they did it, but you have
No, it was really close to each scene.
Oh.
So,
So you gotta get lost in the sauce. You're admiring the lights, the
Yes.
colors, the
so sometimes
fog,
the
and
voice goes out, you know
check
what I
out of it.
mean?
Ah, yeah.
And then also sometimes the story was long enough that when you're getting close enough to the speaker to hear it, you don't get to hear the whole story by the time you're like passing it.
Is the story necessary or interesting enough to warrant being?
I think so. My thing is, one of the things that's like a downfall for the Hayride throughout all the years is that it really isn't a continuous scare. Like it's not continuously moving and things. Just like when you do a walk through haunt, it's no matter what you're turning a corner, there's going to be something else. There's something else. There's something else. There's not like some in between kind of like, okay, cool, I'm going to calm down for a moment and then go into something. With the Hayride, there is. They will set up these scenes. And then as you're exiting them, you know, they have to turn a corner with this tractor trailer and there is nothing set up. You know what I mean? You're in the dark in this area, kind of getting turned before you go to the next one.
like the downtime, right?
Yeah, and I was
Yeah.
like, that would be the time to like tell us that story, so we at least have something to keep us engaged. Because I feel like Disneyland does that. You know what I mean? Like there'll be
yeah.
moments on rides where it gets dark, but there's a voice that's talking to us. You know what I mean? And they're just trying to get us set up for the next place, but at least we have something keeping us like in it. You know?
Yeah, I guess it keeps you. You're right. The illusion of it, staying in it is true.
So that's one thing. Yeah.
I do think, and also I really liked, and I know they've done this in the past, where they've had scare actors like on cables, and they'll spin around over top. I think that really adds an added layer to kind of, I don't want to say, because it's not immersive. In no way is
Sure.
I think immersive.
You can see the tracks, all that
Yeah.
stuff, but it's cool.
It is cool, yeah. It's fun. It's
yeah.
cool, yeah, and that's part of it. And so one of them, I think actors can kind of drop down and they can jut out.
They had like bungee cords.
yeah,
kind
the
of
bungee
things.
cords. Thank you. That's what I
Yeah,
meant.
so they had people who could kind of really lean far out, almost to the point of touching above you,
Yeah.
and then get back into their little hole or whatever. But they could do that, which was frightening. And then, like Chris said, swing around in circles around you and stuff. And kind of like one of them had like this head that was also on like a bungee and would kind of throw it down towards you.
Oh, I didn't see that. That's cool.
Yeah,
That's
it was
cool.
really cool. So I was gonna say,
Yeah.
like, again, just reaching out more, right? Things like that were really good.
Yeah.
They did a lot with fun little effects they added.
Loved it.
Oh
Right.
my gosh. This is
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, this is exactly what you need to do. There was like a point where there's just these bubbles. I think we were kind of like in the underwatery world area.
Which, by the way, I love how that's lit too, with the greens and
Yes.
the blues and the tentacles, giant
Yeah.
tentacles. Yeah.
Yeah, and they threw these bubbles at us, which are like the bubbles that are filled with fog, which are just so cool anyways.
Yeah.
So when you pop them, there's like a little burst of fog in it. But those were all like all over us. So it's just, again, like we're now feeling like more immersed in it.
Because those are underwater bubbles.
Yeah.
Oh, I see why. Like we're underwater.
Christopher's got this. Takes a little
Yes,
bit, but
it does.
we're getting
Fortune
there.
and glory shit.
Stupid. See,
Fortune and glory.
This board queue doesn't make sense, people. No, but no, that was cool, and I really specifically liked that area too. That was a really cool area. Also, the set design, I think, is always really cool. I think when they had like a greenhouse that had kind of gone out of control. Some of the scare actors were wearing leaves and wearing like ghillie suits.
like an overgrown.
Yeah,
kind of,
yeah. Like, and then we had that. We went through, and the greens came through the lights and that. And,
Yes.
and so there was one point when we went through like an alien tunnel, and we had to go through these like sparkling lights. And I thought just the level of, and again, I'm a huge lighting nerd. So the more lights that you can add to a scene that make it cinematic, to me, I just get off on it. And I really felt that the Hayride did that. Like for every vignette, they did a great job with their lighting.
Yeah, and then like you said, you'd have fog kind of roll through and do different things like that. Yeah, I'm with you. The scenes seemed funner in that sense. And then again, I don't think we were ever left with one where you were passing through and nobody was there.
Yeah,
Like
it was
they were
well
staffed.
staffed.
Yeah, and so that's so important. We didn't miss any of those cool effects, you know?
It is important to note that we went early. Like you mentioned it before, but we were there within the first hour of them opening.
Yeah, and early in October.
Yeah.
So, you know, those kind of things can definitely play factors in it. They had some other cool things that kind of would reach out as far as, you know, like just trying to get you more scares. They had like either animatronics or things like that that would have certain triggers, like in I think the overgrown area you were talking about, or maybe it was a different area, but they had like these barrels released that just rolled towards us and then slammed really.
Oh, that was the that section. That was cool. That scared me.
Yeah, and they slammed hard like right next to where you were passing through and
Yeah.
stuff like that. And then they had effects where that would hit us with things. Like there was an alien area, and there was some aliens that you know are hanging out and being creepy and stuff like that. And then right at the end, the two of them pull out their little alien guns, and they have like these like fog blasting guns, fog cannons,
Yeah.
and they literally are spraying us. Like they're just like this shock of like, psh, you know what I mean?
And so they know that you're taking pictures too, right? And you mentioned, we'll talk about the Instagrammable thing later, but I took a shit ton of pictures and videos on this because you can. It's not like, you know, it's not like when you go through traditional haunts, you might be so scared you drop your phone. So you're taking a shit ton of pictures. So while these things happen, they are startling. They might not be startling if you're watching them the whole time, maybe.
Yeah.
But if you're taking pictures, it's like, holy shit, you know? So
well,
it was
and it
cool.
was still startling. I wasn't taking pictures I took pictures at the very top of the Hayride, but then otherwise I'm a big person of like, I don't like to be on my phone when we do the haunts. So I wasn't on it, and it was still very startling. So
okay.
I was gonna say, even if you're not looking at a little screen, they hid the actors well. You'd kind of touched on that. I want to go back to it. There was like times where you're coming into an area and you can again see it really well, but they kind of did these things where they usually built a lot of things closer to like the tractor you're going through, the trailer, and so it's kind of close on the outside as you're going through almost like a tunnel-y thing or something like that, which helped to bring everything closer too, I think. And then they would hide a scare actor like behind like a beam or something that's right up there. So it's like when you're looking at it as you're approaching it, you don't see anybody and you're like, okay. And then literally as you're like passing that beam, there's somebody there doing the pop out thing that they do.
Yeah.
Which was very effective for me, like a few times.
I think part of that, and again, this is like tech part of it, they really push the brightness of the lighting up.
Yeah.
So you, as the consumer, your pupils adjust to it being
That's
dark,
true.
right? Because you are going through darkness until you get to these vignettes. So it's
So the darkness, they can pop out a little more.
exactly, it hides people. But I also feel like this.
That makes sense to me.
And also the buildings they built, like I feel like they really upped their game on that. It's easier to hide people in the buildings, right? Like it's so yeah, I was very impressed with the Hayride this year. I thought it was a lot of fun, lots of picture opportunities, like you said, we'll talk about. Even when you first come in, like if they have a couple 12-foot skeletons and they have a bunch of pumpkins that float in animatronics, and the fact that they kind of come over you, it's intimidating, right? It's different. So
yeah, there was like, you know, I just can't say enough about the things that they tried to make it feel like you were more connected or touched or anything like that. You know what I mean? There was like another area that like had a bunch of burlap hanging down, so the strings just kind of hit you and stuff. There's always the big explosion at the end. I think they did that last year, and it was like the best part of it too.
They've done it like a few years in a row now.
Yeah, but it's still totally worth it.
It is.
And you like end up leaving the maze, or I guess the Hayride, covered in fog, basically, which is fun.
You're like washed in fog, and then it's so cool that and again the Halloween nerd comes out.
Yeah.
Like you're carrying fog with you because it can't dissipate in enough time, so it's pretty neat.
Yeah. So I feel like for me, it was much improved. This was probably the most I've enjoyed the Hayride. Like we got off of that thing being like, that was actually fun.
Yeah.
That was actually good.
I was so happy. I mean, it was definitely worth the price of admission for us, but we'll come back to the cost later because it was free for us. We'd have to tell,
I know. I was like,
out.
do we say it's worth the price of admission when you don't?
We'll get to that. So let me do some of the easier ones now too, because I think the mazes and the Instagrammable stuff is the more like the heavy conversation. Again, once you get into Hayride, it also gets you admission to, like you mentioned, some of these other little fairs, right? Like axe throwing and escape rooms. I think that's a pretty good value. Again, you have to pay extra for that. I think they're $5.
Yeah, I don't think they're a ton.
Yeah. And of course, when you're at a theme park, I mean, people that have gone to Disneyland fucking know, hey, $5 for a churro, I'm in. That's cheap. It's not. But when you're there, like your mindset's like, yeah, $5 for
I need
axe
that
throwing.
churro.
Exactly, right?
I need it.
So I think some of the extra added layers of cool shit you can do there are really pack in some of the fun to hear it. And then the food offerings. Love the food. Again, you talked about kettle corn. They have barbecue there. They have I think they have like tacos there. They have deep fried Twinkies. I think it's really cool. Like what they offer in their food court, and again, it's a food court, but it is really a bunch of food trucks. Is great.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Like I think it's such a cool thing. And then they've got this area to make. They made. I think you can make s'mores this year.
Yeah, they did do that. You could buy like a little s'mores package because they had little fire pits kind of out or whatever.
Yeah.
Or like little areas to do that, which is really cool.
So like for families, I'm not going to say young kids because I still think it's kind of scary. They've got people on still turning around. But like if you wanted to do Hayride and you can hold your kid or your older parent and you want to do s'mores and then go home and call it a day. Granted, it's still expensive because you still got to pay the general admission price to do that, or at least Hayride.
Yeah,
it's kind of cool.
It is really cool,
right?
And they do have some of those people like you talked about, like stilt walkers and stuff. Like they have kind of some flagship characters that they've kept around. So when you're first entering, they're all like wandering around and being creepy and doing their things. They're another one of those people that can this is another one of those places that the actors will talk to you, you know what I mean? So they'll be in character, but they'll have a discussion with you kind of a thing, which is again, not very HHN kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So we like that. And they'll wander around. Me and Chris were trying to take a selfie, like when we were at the opening and one of them ran up to try to be in our photo and stuff. And so just cute little interactions like that, which are really cool.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So do we go mazes now?
Yeah. Let's do the mazes.
All right. So again, this is coming from huge maze people. So take that for what it's worth. We got a new maze this year.
Yes.
It was announced at HHN, and apparently everybody's
It was announced at the panel.
Oh, I'm sorry, at the panel. Yes, I said HHN because I'm also HHN.
It was kind of based off of one they'd had in the past. They had like this kind of manor one. I think it was Midnight Manor or something like that. I can't remember.
That was my favorite one too.
It was really cool. So this year they were spicing it up.
Yes, apparently they're doing. They did Monet Manor as in a collaboration with Janelle Monáe, which if you've seen The Glass Onion, she's like the lead in Glass Onion. So
yes, and if you follow her on Instagram or anything else, she always does like amazing Halloween costumes every year. Like it's like like full on all the way. You know what I mean? Like there's a few actors out there who will just go like full in it, and it's like cosplay level kind of stuff. Yeah, and she's one of those.
How cool!
That for spooky season, yeah. So that's why I think she was really interested in doing making a haunted house with them.
And Hayride could use that too. Like I think one of the biggest knocks we had was that their mazes felt very dated and very stale. And this one was, walking through. I actually really liked the manor because we went outside. At one point, they had this is last year, hanging vampires and whatnot. But this year's maze, they do something, and I remembered it as we were going through it. There's something they do in here. By the way. When we went to Knott's, we were like, more fog. Give me all the fog. We need more fog. Yeah. Hey, apparently that word got down to Hayride because these people put so much fog in their mazes you couldn't even see. Which, hey, okay,
right? It's a choice.
Yeah,
it was comical though. I'm not gonna lie. It was cool that she had clearly Monet had been she had done videos for this whole thing, and so there would be all these pictures you'd come up to, and she's in the frame at her manor, yeah, and she's telling you a story and stuff. But yeah, as we started to get deeper into it, we were like, oh my God, that's a lot of fog. And then it was like a lot of fog.
lot of
and
fog.
then it was like all the fog.
Yeah, they stole the juice from Knott's. But you make a good point. And the biggest special effect that I noticed outside of what's normally in here was the like they were basically like LCD TVs with
Yes.
right. How did you? So just to describe it, and then I want to get Jessica's thoughts on it. Is it's basically a TV turned vertical, and it's got basically Janelle speaking, and then kind of like transmorphography into like a demon or a creature or blood
those
coming
kinda
down
cool
it.
things.
So, how did you? And there were quite a few of them in this maze. How did you feel about that in this kind of this new step forward in terms of technology and haunts?
I mean, I think it was an interesting way to keep her involved in it, right? Because it's like when I think about other mazes that have tried to either bring on kind of a famous character, or even sometimes it's just like a TV show or like an IP that they're using. It's like, how do you bring that in? You know what I mean? And like Halloween Horror Nights will do it like through their masks. They'll go ahead and like for instance, when you did Ash vs. Evil Dead, they will go and get Ash and do a face morph of him and like literally make masks for everybody.
A silicone mask.
A silicone mask that the actors will wear, and it's like suddenly have Ash in the maze. You know what I mean? And so it's like, how do you do that with this one? How do we still call it her manor if she's not there? And it's like, I don't think we need to do masks of her and things like that. You know what I mean? And so this was, I think, their way of keeping it like, no, it's Monet's manor as opposed to just like someone, you know what I mean? So I think it was an interesting way to keep her around involved in the whole thing. And I like having more technology in the haunts generally, because I do think we're just at that time now that it's like, we've seen a lot of the same practical effects and props and things like that, which it can be great. But when you can introduce technology and make it work for it, it can enhance it. You know what I mean? So I didn't mind like them putting those in there. And I did like that they were trying to tell a story. I did get very distracted by the fog.
Yeah.
But it was really fun to have her like there and changing and things.
I felt like it was cool too. I do think that it was a little bright. That's the thing.
It was like LED kind of like
fucking brightness to 100. And to contrast that, it's very dark in a maze.
Yes.
Like fucking dark. So you have, again, you talk about the pupils where like you're used to something being dark, your eyes kind of dilate, and then you look at something being bright.
Right.
And then it's all of a sudden, even if it's not super bright, it is super bright.
Yeah.
Right. So that kind of took me out of it. Anytime we saw one of these LED like fucking TVs up, I'm like, wow, that's fucking bright. And then of course you hit this brightness with the fog.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? It's like
you're like blind.
Yeah. So, but I did like how they told the story, and like even though they didn't have her in there, they had her story in there. Like, hey, this is my place. This is kind of the evilness to go along, kind of like a Crimson Peak-ish thing where we're getting them as the narrator. But no, I thought it was cool. They did and that one was really staffed in my opinion. I think that scare actors were enthusiastic. I think the fog really helped.
Yeah.
And then
the fog was the coolest thing. I can't say it enough. Like it was just, don't get me wrong. Like there's a part of me that's like, I would have liked to see what else they had set up. But straight up there were like probably 5 different like small rooms we walked through that it's like I couldn't see anything but fog. Like so if they had set up something cool in there, I probably missed it. Which is a little like, oh, that could be unfortunate. But for all I know, there wasn't anything in there.
Well, that's a great point, right? So they could technically do that, right?
Yeah.
Where like the consumer is expecting something to scare you in this room.
Yeah.
And the fact that you're not, but you can't see.
Yeah.
It's like there's something there.
Yeah.
Is it gonna get me now?
And then there would be scare actors that would be in there. But yeah, the fog was, I agree that was the most impressive level of fog I think that I have seen in a maze.
Yeah.
Like blowing my mind, made me laugh quite a bit, but also like was thoroughly excited and entertained. So.
Yeah. There was a part in there that I remember Dustin saying something when we went a couple years ago. A long hallway with a flickering light. Just a long hallway.
Yeah, that's
is
true.
unsettling.
It is.
Like, and I thought, I remember thinking we need to put something like this in one of our movies. And I just thought that was really cool. Like I was pretty impressed by this maze. This is a lot of fun.
Oh, good.
A lot of fun.
That's how I felt about it too, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So another one that I traditionally have enjoyed is the trick or treat one. All right.
Oh yeah.
And I'm going to date a long time ago in a galaxy far away. The first thing we went to with me and your sisters was the Hayride back, I think it was 2017 or 6, whatever the first year we got here was. And it was horrible. But this maze, they'd let you in like this little courtyard that was kind of boarded off, and it was like a little cul-de-sac, and you knock on doors, and every door would have a scare actor. And I'm like, that was really cool. So anyway, flash forward to this year. And they had told us that they really wanted to put a little bit extra juice in this maze. They felt like it's been dated. The animatronics were kind of out of it, which, by the way, that to bring back One Day Manor, the animatronics at the end of that were out. A lot of them were out. They weren't very good. People would kind of walk in front. They know they're animatronics. They're trying to
Yeah.
get a pop, and they couldn't.
They were, that's true, when they were like outside.
Exactly.
Yeah, it almost like bottlenecked the maze because of the fact that it was like people were just trying to get something to pop at them.
Right. Somebody do something.
Yeah.
And going into the trick or treat one, I think that the producers knew that. So we were told like they're going to put a little extra time and effort into this one.
Yeah, because in the past, after the first year we went, where you would knock on doors and stuff like that, it then turned into, well, we still have the same setup, the same facade, but there was nothing happening. Like if you look up to the doors, you're not going to have anything. It's just kind of a background thing. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So you're walking through a cute little town, but you can't interact with it.
And what's interesting about this is that there's no roof or topper. And
You're outside.
you mentioned this in Knots, where that can kind of take you out of it. But here you're knocking on doors, so I think
Yes.
it's kind of okay, right?
Yeah, it's like purposeful. Like you
Yeah.
should feel outside. Yeah, agreed.
And again, the walkthrough is to the entrances. It does feel a little dated, but I think they do some stuff with hiding things with sheets, and it feels very Trick or Treat the movie for me. At
Yeah.
least the beginning part of it.
Yeah.
They can hide stuff. There's a TV. It's fun.
It
Right?
is.
It's fun.
So we go into this thing, and again, we had went to like the panel of them talking about it, and they had said that they are going to reintroduce knocking on the doors again, like
Yeah.
the trick or treat aspect. So everyone was pretty hype about it, and so we had that inside knowledge going in. My sister Lizzie was with us for this, and she did not have that inside knowledge. So when we were first walking through, we get to a door, and right next to it is a big glowing button that is like a very tempting press me kind of a button, right? Doesn't
Yeah.
say press me, but it's a big glowing button. And it's like immediately, and so I was like, Chris, go press it kind of thing. But Lizzie said that if she hadn't been with us, she would not have pressed it. Like she was like,
Yeah.
I wouldn't have started doing what you guys were doing because she wouldn't have got it kind of a thing.
Right.
So I do think even though they made it pretty bright, they probably should have gave a little like press me or something
Totally.
for the people who just weren't sure or haven't been here in the past and didn't know.
Well, that's a fucking great point,
Yeah.
because you're right. We knew that going in, but like, how many people have done mazes, and you're not supposed to touch anything in a maze. You don't touch
Yeah.
it, right?
And I actually, there's plenty of times we go through mazes and someone behind me is like touching something and I'm like, what the freak is wrong with you? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So again, they did put a glowing button, which should make you go touch it.
Right.
But at the same
But still,
time,
could just be set deck.
yes. So
Yeah.
Chris went and pressed the button.
And I loved it. There's some type of jolt, whether it's a trigger, and there's some type of lighting or a character pops out of a door. It was just so cool.
It was really cool. Every door you went to had like a doorbell on it,
Yeah.
or something, and it would either trigger something or someone would come and open the door. So you were basically triggering your own scares
Yeah.
by doing it. And they would give you candy.
They gave us candy. It was so cool. That to me was one of the cooler interactive experiences I've had through a maze. That was really cool.
It made me so happy.
Oh my goodness. Jessica's loving the board op today. Yeah, how did you feel about the trick or treat thing?
It was really cool.
Right?
It was really cool. It was really fun. Like, and don't get me wrong, because I don't know if that maze would have been worth it without it, to be honest.
Yeah.
But they did really cool effects. Like there was, you knocked on one and the sign above us like started to fall over and stuff. Like, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like the animatronics for it, or you'd have big lights. There was a lot of they did the cool thing where you have your attention somewhere else because you're knocking on the door, you're looking at the door, and then the scare is actually behind you, where it's like coming up behind you. You know what I mean? Like one of the scare actors they didn't come out until you knock on the door, kind of a thing.
Oh, that's
So there was a lot of cool things like that I really appreciated.
Yeah.
And yeah, just walking through and like looking for doors and being all excited to go. And this is the one maze that they slowed people down going through it too, I will say, because
Oh.
every other maze here, they really like full on conga lined. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like it kept the line short, which is nice. But there was me and Chris, we've talked about this in the past. We are the type of people who will generally kind of slow down so that we don't end up having seeing scares, but the scares don't get us kind of a thing. We like to be surprised when we walk into a room and hopefully get the scare, you know? So if you can slow down a little bit by enjoying like the rooms a little more, then you can separate yourself some from people.
Sandbag it.
Sandbag it a little.
Yeah.
So it was hard to sandbag it at this event because they're sending people in all the time. And we would start to sandbag, but we almost always caught up to people.
Yeah.
Like it just was inevitable. But this maze, they specifically, I think, made it so that it's like people didn't catch up to you. Like it took a while for people to start to catch up to us.
Yeah.
And they definitely didn't know about the door thing, I could tell. But then once they saw us doing it, then they actually fell behind again because they were waiting to do it.
Yeah.
And so that was really nice, is that you also felt like you were alone with your group doing like the cool stuff.
Which never happens.
Never happens.
Yeah. So that was a really cool plus for this maze. And this happened, I mean, there must have been at least 7 or 8, probably at least 8 of the houses you could knock on and get some type of interaction. That was so cool, man.
Yeah,
That was really cool.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Yeah. So okay, after that one, there was I think this Hellbilly.
Hellbilly, yeah.
Hellbilly, and this is the same exact maze it was last year. So it's
hillbilly, but like
Hellbilly.
Yeah, like killing people. It's a slaughterhousey kind of thing, but with hillbillies. You know what I mean?
And the facade is cool. It's just you walking through an old decrepit like backwoods mansion or whatnot. It was cool. It was fine. I don't remember anything special about it, like particularly. So
yeah, I was trying to think if I can remember anything special too. It's the usual gore and grossness, and they don't do a bad job of the scares. You know, usually people are kind of behind a corner, but yeah, it wasn't terrible, but it was kind of the same thing as, like you said, the past, and didn't really have anything to write home about for me. You know?
What was new about it, right? So like, and if you can't think of that, and we could do this every year, like I couldn't. So it's like, well, if you go, which you're gonna have to. I mean, the other two I think were I think Trick or Treat was my favorite, and then Monet Manor, and then this one. But like at the same time, they're all fun. Those two are just more fun than this one.
Yeah. Where do you put the Hayride amongst them?
I really like the Hayride now. Like if I were younger and like I was, going on a date or whatnot, I think the Hayride is just the perfect place to go. Other than
You're younger and going on a
yes,
date.
now I'm old and married, and I don't do fun things.
We
anymore.
do dates.
No, I kid, Fooch, I kid.
Stupid.
But so the Hayride to me was a lot of fun. Like Hayride, I think has been the best it's been in years. I think if you've never been, it's refreshing. We've been like the past 3 years in a row, and it was way refreshing for us.
Yeah.
So it was cool. It's hard for me to put the Hayride above Trick or Treat because you're actually moving. The scares are closer. It's more intimate. They're unexpected.
That's true.
Right? I mean, even for people who have gone to the same maze and done different mazes and different haunts, these is still feel the Trick or Treat like experience felt new and fresh.
It's true. It did. I really enjoyed it. It was like a fun, like it felt more activity-ish, and I liked that about it. You know what I mean?
I wonder where Lizzie would put it. So, okay, Trick or Treat, Hayride, Monet Manor, and then Hellbilly.
I think that's the same for me.
Is it?
Honestly, yeah. I think that lined up that same. But honestly, the fact that Hayride's even like in there is kind of a big thing. I always liked the idea of the haunted hayride part itself, and wanted to love it. And every year it's kind of been like, yeah, but it's not great. And even though I'm trying to enjoy it for what it is, it felt a little bit kiddie level before is what I'll say. You know what I mean? It felt like, yeah, like you said, you can bring your kids to this and they can sit around and there'll be things that try to jump out, but they're not going to be that scary for an adult kind of a thing.
Yeah.
This year was like, no, like you might get some little jumps as an adult, right? We did
at least twice, and
it had a lot of fun. And we've always said this event is the best kind of event to like bring a group of friends and to like hang out and wander around.
Drink.
And like
they sell alcohol there.
They don't sell alcohol.
Never
there.
mind. Well,
interesting. They only sell mocktails there.
Oh,
yeah.
Drink in the car.
Okay. They do bag checks. Do not bring anything in. But yeah, I was gonna say that's the only thing is I wonder if they've had trouble with it in the past, or maybe they just don't have a liquor license. But either way,
good point. It is a pop up. Technically, so they are classified as a pop up. They build this set and they tear it down. It's like it's in the middle of a park.
Parking was a little different this year.
Yes, that's true.
Usually, you kind of always have to pay for parking, and you park kind of close and walk in. This year they got some free parking at the zoo that's nearby, LA Zoo, and they had shuttles, which I feel like this was fantastic. I actually really enjoyed this. You still have a bit of a dirt walk you have to take, but it's the same dirt walk that all the people who park close and paid for.
Oh, it's way shorter than that.
It's actually way shorter. Yeah. So it's one of those where I was like, honestly do the free parking at that point.
Don't
like,
get suckered into preferred parking. Free parking is the way to go.
the preferred
100%.
parking did have a shuttle too for that same.
It did?
Yeah, it had a
I
same.
missed that.
Do you remember when we were leaving? It's like it had the same pickup zone. You had to be on one side or the other. But anyways, but I mean, it's like a 5-minute shuttle drive to go to the parking. And again, we're in LA. Like,
Yeah.
if you're gonna do Dark Harbor, same thing. You're gonna have to get the shuttle. You know what I mean? Like,
I wonder if it's worth. It's got to be worth it. Parking can't be less than $20. There's no way it's less than $20.
yeah, there's
So
no
there you
way.
go.
I agree.
Save $20. Get the kettle corn. Get 2 kettle corns.
The kettle corn's so good, guys.
Yeah, get the kettle corn.
You could just dream about it forever.
I noticed that your pupils dilated and your skin flushed, and I'm assuming a little bit of blood rushed into your penis.
When I think of that kettle corn, maybe. So yeah. So we covered the hayride, covered the mazes, covered kind of the food fair. I want to talk about the Instagram part of it, the picture thing, okay? Because I
It
think
is pretty for pictures.
it is. And I think the part of it for me is that a lot of the people that go are younger people. They seem like they're younger than us.
Yeah, I will say that. It does you tend to draw a younger crowd.
Right. And so
Like, because it feels like a thing you should go to if you're like high school friends or, you know what I mean?
Right now, what else are you going to do? It's cheap. You can hang out.
Again, they don't drink there. So
Right.
it's, yeah.
So you can really take anybody. If you're saddled taking your younger kid, sister, brother, you can take them to this. But so for you mentioned it before. So Midnight Falls is the facade, the fake air quotes town that Hayride kind of creates. And I just want to touch on that before kind of giving our final like numbers, because it's so important to think about. When you walk in, you talked about that tunnel. And what the tunnel is, it's an enclosed area with like vines and jack-o'-lanterns hanging off the edges that are lit, fog running through, orange Halloween lights. I mean, it screams Halloween. When I think Halloween, this is what I think about.
That's what I was saying. That tunnel alone, I could spend 30 minutes in, and we might have
We
total
tried.
said.
Yeah.
I mean, when you're first entering, they don't want you to hang out in there a ton because they're
Yeah.
trying to get everybody in. But as the night goes on, you can find time to go in there, and
Yeah.
it's so cool. It's a tunnel, and then they have attached like netting and burlap and things like that, so it's very textured inside.
Yeah.
And like you said, some of that's hanging down like the burlap. They put like corn husks and stuff in there as well, and everything, and then pumpkins, and they're on the
Hay,
wall.
right?
Yeah, and it's all like it's hanging above you, it's around you.
It's cool.
It's really cool. And then the fog is going in there, and you have all the orange lights and some purple lights and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's just like it's such a vibe.
Yeah, when you think Halloween, this is kind of, and for me, part of the reason I've always gravitated towards Hayride is that it feels like their primary like character, if there was one, is a jack-o'-lantern. And when I think of Halloween, that's where my mind goes, just jack-o'-lanterns. And I feel like these like corn stalks and orange lights and just jack-o'-lanterns that are lit everywhere in fog. To me, that is Halloween. And so I think part of me just goes to it for that. And then once you come through the tunnel, like you mentioned, the jack-o'-lantern stack.
Yeah.
Right? The jack-o'-lantern stack is the most pictured, like, I guess if you could do such a thing, like how the castles are in Disneyland, this jack-o'-lantern stack is got to be for Hayride.
Yeah.
And so, people line up to take pictures there. We did.
We did, yeah. I was gonna say because it's worth it. The thing I'm gonna go ahead and up it one more. Okay, don't get me wrong, because the tunnel is hard to beat.
It is.
The shop.
Oh, yeah. Their merch shop is incredible.
Their merch shop, y'all. Oh my gosh. I don't know if you can beat it.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's a better merch shop out there.
Yeah.
It
It's
is so good. And it has our favorite freaking t-shirt company
Yeah.
that they use for
Halloween t-shirt company.
Exactly. Halloween t-shirt company. We have like been fans of theirs for like, God, I don't know, 7 years or something.
At least.
And they have blown up the last few years, which like good for them. I'm so sad because they used to send us free stickers. Now they don't.
It's free to me.
Right? But anyways, but they have the coolest Halloween shirts ever, like for anybody. So like definitely look them up if you haven't. You can get them online. They have sales periodically. If you go to Midsummer Scream, they're usually there and they sell their stuff for pretty cheap and you don't have to have shipping. And then even at the haunted LA Haunted Hayride, oh my gosh, they have like they do some of their own shirts and they do shirts for 13th floor. And then they literally had even like discount ones they must have had extras of or weird sizes or something.
Yeah.
Because they had like $13 shirts, I think, or something.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
It was. I have one.
Yeah. I was like, it's so cool. And they just have so much fun Halloween merch in there and all.
Yeah.
It's like you have to go look at their shop. Like, You have to.
It feels like a corner store in a Midwest town during Halloween season. You walk in, the
Yes.
wooden boards and these stands, and everybody's kind of. It's right in front of that show, that rock and roll show that you talked about. Like it's right in front of
Right.
that. It's right next to a really cool facade where there are like hanging like heads and just like these
Oh, yeah.
hay bales and
Sure.
fog is rolling in. There are orange lights everywhere. Like yeah, that store and just that. And this is as soon as you come out of the tunnel.
Yeah.
Like when you come out of the tunnel, walk through it, come out of it, you're like, fuck yeah, this is Halloween. Let's party.
It's so
you know?
cool. It's so cool.
Hayride kills it with that, right?
Yeah, they do.
So-
and like we said, the pictures,
Yeah.
it's true. If you're in that front area, they do a lot of little setups that we haven't necessarily talked about, but that just if you wander around, they have like swing set randomly there.
Oh, yeah.
And usually there's a character nearby to take a photo with you. And then their trees have like decorations in them. And again,
Mm-hmm.
like he said, there's tons of hairy barrels everywhere. So you can just go sit down and it's like right away photo op. You know what I mean?
It's everything is a photo op. And again, the orange lights,
Yeah.
the purple lights, the green. There is no semblance of the outside world in this area. It
Yeah.
just feels like Halloween.
It looks cooler than it actually is basically.
Yeah.
Basically, if you mostly care about aesthetics and what you're going to be able to post about your haunted event, then a hayride might be it for you, to be honest.
Well, we did one last year called Angel of Light, which didn't come back this year, which is actually pretty sad, which was described as an Instagram like haunt, which is crazy that they could do that. But like,
Oh, yeah.
you know, this one is similar to that. Because Angel of Light, if you didn't listen to our review last year, it was an incredible thing where you just take a shit ton of pictures. This is the same way too. Like this is very much in the vein
Yeah.
of like you could take a picture anywhere you want, like you mentioned. I think it
Yeah.
was really cool.
It was so cool.
It is $66. It was $57 plus $7 service tax. So let's call it 65.
Yeah, and I think
66?
like we said, it's only $10 cheaper to just do the hayride or something, or 15. It's
Yeah.
not that much cheaper. Which again, if you are going in to just take photos, you could get just the hayride ticket and be the cheapest. You know what I mean?
And then you can also do the axe things. You could do like all
Yeah,
the mini
you could pay
games.
for all the extra little
You
things.
could eat there.
Yeah, exactly. So you could just go hang out with friends that way. Otherwise, general admission's a little bit more, and at least you get the walkthroughs and stuff.
The trick or treat's worth it.
Trick or treat's pretty worth
It's
it.
worth $10, right?
I would say that.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
do we? So okay. So it costs us $0. Thank you, Midsummer Scream. Thank you,
Thank
13th floor.
you.
Appreciate it. Is it worth $66?
Great question. I think for me, it's still hard. It's still, I would still want a discount on this ticket.
What's it worth to you? Like, what would you be like? And this is for everything.
I do 40.
40? 40? I think 40 was the pre-sale. So if you got in on
I
it
would have got
early,
the pre-sale then, and
Which-
I probably would have went.
which is a really good, that's a pro tip, people. Once they put pre-sale up, you gobble those fuckers up.
Yeah, if you're planning to go next year, just like, I mean, what do? You just like follow them. You get on their mailing list. Like
Yeah.
they will send you a link and they'll be like, this is going on sale, and then just jump on it.
What's great about I don't know if it's just 13th floor or not, but what they're doing is you can buy the pre and it's a voucher. So you
Yeah.
don't even have to pick the date
Date.
that you're going to go.
Oh, yes, it's the best. You literally just have the voucher for the tickets, and then you put in your code when you actually pick your dates, and it knocks it all off because it's like you've already paid for it, kind of a thing.
That is worth it.
Oh, 100%. So yeah, absolutely. That is 13th floor that's doing that,
Yeah.
and we should do it if you can. Get those cheap tickets and then pick the date. You know.
Yeah, that's a pro tip for next year. So write that down. $40 you said? I think it's worth 50, maybe 55.
I was gonna go 45.
45? Give me 50. 45, 50.
Should we? Yeah, I was gonna say, is there how much can we do?
$7? Are you fucking serious? This isn't enough for anything. What are you, a 6-year-old?
Oh, Jonah didn't like it. But $50, I think it's definitely worth it. I think that in terms of, I don't think there's anything cheaper that you can do in LA than Hayride, maybe Queen Mary, but
That's true.
regardless, it's $66 now. If you are looking to do something, I don't know, maybe family friendly, I think that's a good choice. A lot of stuff we
Work.
do is not family friendly. But I think the vibe is cool. Yeah, I would say go if you can. And also, by the way, I should say if you go on like a Wednesday, it is much cheaper. It's like $10 cheaper. So again, a Wednesday's a hard day because it's work day. And also, I don't know what type of like actor involvement would be there on a Wednesday. You know what I mean? It's like
That's a good point.
on Friday and Saturday, probably Sunday now, hey, we're staffed to the max.
I
On
would
a
hope
Wednesday,
they do the same as every day, like they do at like Halloween Horror Nights. But
yeah, maybe. But I love Hayride. I say if you can stomach dropping $60, $66 on, go. It's fun.
It was really fun.
The Hayride's incredible. If you've never been on the Hayride,
Yeah.
this is the great year to set the bar.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so the trick or treat's interactive.
That's true.
Just
And if you need some Halloween photos, you're going to get some.
take some pictures.
Take pictures.
Yeah, this is a great profile picture point.
Totally.
Yeah. All right. Hey, I'm good with it. You got anything else to say about Hayride?
No, I feel great. I think we killed it.
All right. So for Chris
And Jessica, goodbye.
I love kettle corn.